This is the first in a series on the different forms of peer pressure and corporate food industry propaganda that is seemingly designed to discourage people from eating more healthily and from, trying to lose weight and or just eating less, especially eating less. They really don't like that, some of these food corporations, and then they spread it through. I think they try to. I think there's proven evidence that they have spread certain slogans like "No such thing as bad food." So I'm going to get to those. But the first one, the first form of peer pressure, the first form of social manipulation that's being spread by corporations, I think initially, and then through activists who don't realize it's just propaganda, is the myth of health at every size. The health at every size movement in its current form, which is that they say any attempt at weight loss is actually just vanity. People aren't really born wanting, the majority of us aren't really born naturally and evolutionarily wanting to be slim and fit and toned looking because it's healthy and because we're persistence farmers who a lot of our evolution was going to make us healthiest and fittest and able to survive if we were able to release a lot of heat easily, which is why we want to look thin, because we need to look like we can run a long way, but we don't want to look too thin because then we can't chase a mammoth either. But they try to debunk that whole theory that we're just born wanting to be slim and fit and toned because it meant that we were good at chasing mammoths for a long time without overheating, and the mammoth would get worn out before we did because we could not overheat. They don't like that theory, and they want to say it's all vanity. Because it's not even healthy to be overweight, to be a healthy weight. What's really causing obese and overweight people to die younger and to get more health problems younger is actually fat phobia, like discrimination and life stress, which I'm not denying happen. Those things are real things. But they say that the only reason that people suffer with health complications and die more is fat phobia, and that it's nothing to do with the obesity itself or with their choice of food or how much food or the amount of fat or just the pure weight when it comes to joints or anything. They say it's purely social. Social stresses cause the body to suffer more. And this has been argued against in different ways, but one way I haven't seen people point out is the one I'm going to bring up now, which is how come then that men suffer more with obesity, they have worse complications and they die, their life expectancy goes down more given the same sort of obesity levels than women's do, despite the fact that the same people usually, not in every case, there's overlap, usually also believe in the idea that it's a feminist problem, that only really women and girls get bullied for their weight, which I don't know where they get that from. It's not in my observation whatsoever. But they really truly believe that straight cis men don't really suffer with internalized. I don't like that word because I think we're kind of born wanting to be slim and healthy and fit, and apart from the genetic outliers who were born wanting to look really thin or really big, most people want to look slim and toned, and that's why it's always kind of been the beauty standard with a little tiny bit of variation, but mostly like most people want to look slim and fit and always have done. They will say no, men don't get that pressure that women get. Only women get picked on for their weight. So that's, or significantly picked on is, I guess, the idea. Therefore, men don't have any place in this movement. But they also say that this fat phobia is the reason that people die more. So how come men have worse complications from obesity? These two things can't both be true. You have to pick one. Either it's the case that men genuinely get more fat phobia, and that would explain why they die of obesity more. That's if you want to say that life stress, that social pressure causes people to die of obesity more, then you have to accept that, well, I guess then men are the ones getting the most fat phobia, because why are they dying the most? Or you have to deny you have to sort of deny your other argument and say it's not actually the reason that people with obesity die more and get more complications. I've experienced I can't go into detail because it's not my story to tell, it's not my family, but I witnessed a very traumatic early passing away of a man, and it was very traumatic, and I feel like the idea that it was like fat phobia and social stress, and yet at the same time supposedly men get less of this than women, even though the men and I've observed this in general as well, is generally speaking, women seem to be able, in general, this is a trend, women seem to be able to get much bigger at the extreme ends and live longer than the men do. And yeah, like you see, men seem to die of heart attacks from obesity more easily than the women will, and all the other complications. And the Science Daily article, why is obesity more dangerous for men? It's called. I recommend that as a start if you don't know about this. But there's a real biological explanation that you get so much good research has been done into obesity that we do know. Like there's a biological explanation, multiple, for why men suffer more from obesity than women do. Not have obesity more, but they get more complications and die younger from it than women if you keep everything else equal. And it's like, well then why are you saying that men get less fat phobia and also saying that fat phobia is the reason people die more when men die more from obesity? That's the question.